Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is going to be the books that I read for the second half of the month of February. If you're interested in the books that I read in the first half, I will try to remember to leave that video linked down below. I had a really great reading month for February. One of the best that I can remember in a really long time. So I'm just super excited about that. Hopefully that will continue into March. I have a ton of books that I've been adding to my TBR because of the books that I've been reading in February were so good. I want to continue reading some of these authors. I'm just really excited. So anyway, the first book that I want to talk about is Salt to the Sea by Ruta Sepetys. I gave this book 5 stars. I read Between Shades of Grey by her, I want to say like 2 years ago, and I gave that one 5 stars also. This one is about the sinking of a German ship that was full of refugees in World War II. So it's historical fiction. It is absolutely gut-wrenching. I really love how it's written because it is incredibly short chapters, and each chapter is from a different person's perspective. And in the beginning of the book, I did struggle a little bit with like who's who, because it was just like new characters were being introduced pretty quickly and perspectives were changing. And I listened to this, but I did catch on. And once I started understanding who was who, I was just totally into this story and had to know what was going on. This was a mismatch of different characters from all over the place. They had different backgrounds, and they all met up trying to get to the coast to where they could get on a ship to get out of Germany. This story is heartbreaking. It made me cry. I learned so much. This is a thing in history that I really had never heard of. People talk about the Titanic and how horrific that was, and this is definitely on that level. I think there were 10,000 people on the ship and 9,000 people died. So it's rough, but it is so good, and I highly recommend this book. The next book I read was Phony, Valentine by Courtney, Walsh. This was a Christian contemporary rom-com, which is really out of the ordinary for me. I don't normally pick these up, but I am a really seasonal reader, so I saw the cover of this and thought it would be perfect to read for Valentine's Day, and it was. It was very Valentine's Day themed. There was good faith elements in this book, and I did really like the main guy in the story. I liked the girl too, but she had a lot of, I don't think self-doubt is the correct word, but she was always putting herself down and thinking of herself as not good enough. And I just kind of wanted to shake her out of that. That bothered me, her attitude towards herself, I guess. But this is a hockey romance, and I don't think I've ever read a hockey romance before. I'm not like a sports romance type of person, but from a person who really doesn't read this sort of thing, I thought it was pretty good. I didn't really have anything to complain about, but it was cute and definitely seasonal, and I would recommend reading it in the month of February. So that's my thoughts on Phony, Valentine. The next one was I Must Betray You by Ruta Sepetys. I had to go back to her because I was still reeling from Salt to the Sea. And I gave this one 5 stars also. So I have now read 3 books from her, and they are all 5 stars for me. This one is historical fiction set in Romania in 1989 during the height of communism. And Romania had the worst of the communism, the worst of the things that communists did to people was happening in Romania. They had a leader who was just horrific. And this is about a 17-year-old boy who gets caught up in having to be a spy, essentially a spy on his family, spies on his neighbors and his friends and all of that, and the crazy world in which these people lived in, to where everybody is spying on everybody, and what it's like to live in that situation, and how you can't trust anyone, how closed off the Romanians were from the rest of the world, and they did not know the most basic things that were happening in other places. This book was just so enlightening. I learned an incredible amount. And what made it even more interesting for me was I actually have a friend, or I had a friend. We haven't talked in years for no reason other than we just kind of went different directions. But I had a friend who grew up in Romania, and she is about 10 years older than me. So she would have been about 17 when this book was taking place. And so I just was thinking about her the whole time I was reading this, thinking, you know, this is what she lived through. This is what her life would have been like, because she would have been that age living there at that time. What's interesting is that she does not do any social media at all. She still, even though she left Romania many years ago, has this thing like where she doesn't want to be watched or followed or like very suspicious, you know, so, she doesn't have any social media, so I don't know how to hunt her down. But we used to homeschool our kids together. They were in like the same groups and stuff together. So knowing that she made it out of that situation and she made it to America and she started a family here and her daughter got to be raised here with all of the things that you have in America with all the freedoms and stuff, it just, I don't know, it gave me so much to think about, and that is just my favorite thing about reading. I love this book. I loved it so much, I actually bought the book. And I never buy books unless I find like a, you know, used cheap copy somewhere. I never pay full price for a book ever. And I bought this book in hard copy, and I want my son to read this. He is 20, and I think that this would be so eye-opening for him. I think he would get a lot out of this. So yeah, I talked to him a lot about that book and why it's so important. I think it should be required reading in school, honestly. But yeah, I think that's just one of the best books I've read in a very long time. Next book was The Nature of Fragile Things by Susan Meissner. 5 stars. I've never read any books by her before, but she's pretty popular on BookTube. I know a lot of my friends have read her books and really like her. This book was also historical fiction, but I would call it more historical thriller or suspense. It had a great mystery element through it, which made it even more exciting for me because, you know, I love that sort of thing. But this book takes place, I think it was 1906 in San Francisco when the great earthquake happens. And it's about a woman who is Irish. She comes from Ireland to New York. And while she's in New York, she comes across, I guess, a news ad for a man in California who is looking for a wife. So she answers the ad. She goes to California. They get married. So it starts out like a marriage of convenience. But there's a lot of secrets on both sides. There were some moments in this book that I was absolutely shocked. I did not see these things coming. It was just so good. It had me on the edge of my seat, and I just had to keep listening to this because I had to know what was happening. So yeah, I totally recommend that book. The next one I read was The Number of Love by Roseanna M. White. This was a Christian historical fiction. Can you see like a theme here? I'm on like a historical fiction kick right now. This is set in England during World War II, and it's about a young lady who is a code breaker for England, and her and her mother work in the code breaker office. And while they're there, the young girl ends up meeting a man who is actually a British spy who works out of Spain, who's like doing spying in Spain. And they end up building a relationship, and some mystery elements happen. Something happens to the girl's mother, and there's a whole mystery surrounding that. And something I found extra interesting for this story for me personally was there was talk of anthrax. Anthrax is something that bad guys use to hurt others, and especially during like war situations. And when my husband was in the military, we were in a Burger King on base in England because we were stationed in England, but they have Burger Kings on American bases over there. And someone came out of the bathroom while we were eating. Someone came out of the bathroom and said that they think they found anthrax in the bathroom. That there was a little camera case. You remember back in the day when you would have to buy film and get film developed, and those little like black camera or little black film cases. There was one of those sitting on the back of a toilet in the Burger King, and whoever went in there, I don't remember, they opened it up and it was filled with white powder, and that's what anthrax looks like. So they actually locked down the Burger King we were in. We had to stay. We weren't allowed to leave. We were on lockdown for like an entire day, and they sent the hazmat team to the Burger King to investigate and, you know, see what was happening. So we were stuck in a Burger King for a whole day on base. So that's my anthrax story. Anyway, it was not anthrax. I don't know what was in the container. Maybe it was just meant to scare somebody or to cause something like that to happen, or some kind of joke. I don't know. Anyway, anthrax is mentioned in the book. There's a lot of good faith content in this book, which I liked. It did feel a little long in parts, and I actually didn't love the relationship between the codebreaker and the spy, because he was a lot older than her, and he was kind of pushy in the way he was pursuing her. She is autistic, and I think that part was done really well. Everything about her having autism was great, and she actually reminded me a lot of my daughter. My daughter has actually said, kind of word for word, some of the things that this girl in the book says, so they're very similar. And so this older guy pursuing her the way he was made me uncomfortable, so I didn't love that. But the book itself is still really good. I think it's 1 of 3. So I probably will continue the series, and I think it follows other people, but I liked it. And the last book that I read was Secrets of a Charmed Life, which I just finished, and I actually had to like dry up my tears before I could film this video. Gave it 5 stars. This is also by Susan Meissner. These historical fiction books are just crushing it for me this month. So this one was set during World War II, and it's about 2 sisters who get sent off to the country because, you know, London is going to get bombed. So they get sent away, and the older sister has a meeting with someone in London to talk about becoming a wedding dress designer. That's what she wants for her future. And she had this meeting set up. So she wants to run away from the country house she's staying in to go to London to go to this meeting. And her little sister talks her into taking her with her to London. And the day they arrived in London is the day the Blitz starts. So it is craziness going on, and some really sad, awful things happen. I don't want to give away spoilers, but the gist of the book really is about living your life. Look, I'm going to get teary. Living your life with regret and grief and guilt, which is something I personally deal with. It's about doing something that is pretty horrible and then having to live with that, feeling like you can never make up for it, and there's nothing you can do, you know, to apologize or take it back, and you just have to live with this. It has to do with that, and it deals with this topic so well, and it's so realistic. At least for me, I saw it as that way, because it really is something that affects me, because I didn't do what she did, but I did something that was horrific, and I have to live with it. If you watched my testimony video, it's all in there. It's not something I keep a secret, but that is something I deal with, and I struggle with, and I have to like work through. So this book helped me, I guess is what I'm going to say. But yeah, it is absolutely fantastic. Again, I learned a whole lot. I have read other books that dealt with like the Blitz and, you know, watched movies and stuff like that, but this was like a different perspective of it. Absolutely loved it. So yeah, those are the books that I read for the second half of February. If you've read any of these books and you have any thoughts on them, please let me know. If you have any recommendations for me, please leave those down below. I'm in a like serious mood right now with my reading. I want books that are like devastating. I don't know why, but it's just the mood I'm in right now. So yeah, I hope everybody had a fantastic, love-filled February, and I will see y'all soon. Bye.